Alina's heart pounded as she navigated her rugged pickup truck down the treacherous mountain path, headlights cutting through the midnight darkness. The GPS on her dashboard showed only blank terrain. This area was barely mapped, which was exactly why she had chosen to build her research cabin here. Privacy was essential for her work studying theoretical propulsion systems that her colleagues at MIT had dismissed as impossible. The crash site revealed itself as a long, blackened scar carved into the forest. Pine trees lay flattened in a radiating pattern, their broken trunks still smoldering. At the center of the destruction sat a metallic object unlike anything she had ever seen. Its hull gleamed with an iridescent blue-black sheen despite the impact, and parts of it seemed to shift slightly, as though the material itself was semi-fluid. "Impossible," Alina whispered, her breath forming clouds in the cold Montana air. She approached cautiously, her handheld radiation detector showing normal levels. Whatever this was, it wasn't leaking anything dangerous. When she stood 10 feet from the craft, soft lights activated along what appeared to be a seam in the hull. Alina froze, wondering if she had triggered some defensive system, but nothing else happened. Taking a deep breath, she stepped closer and reached out her hand. The material felt warm despite the freezing night air, with a texture like polished stone, but somehow responsive to her touch. Where her fingers made contact, tiny ripples spread outward. "This changes everything," she murmured, already mentally cataloging what she observed. A distant sound of helicopter rotors pushed her into action. Moving quickly, she circled the craft, estimating its dimensions, roughly 30 feet long by 15 wide, and surprisingly intact given the violence of its landing. Her phone captured dozens of images as she worked. At the rear of the vessel, she discovered what appeared to be an opened compartment. Peering inside, Alina gasped. The interior technology bore no resemblance to anything human. Control surfaces with no buttons, only indentations shaped for hands with too many fingers, and displays showing symbols that shifted and changed as she watched. The helicopter sounds grew louder. Military or government response teams would be here within minutes. Once they secured this site, the craft would disappear into some classified facility, and humanity's chance to independently study truly alien technology would vanish. Alina made her decision. She pulled out her satellite phone and dialed. "Marcus, it's Alina. Remember that theoretical discussion about first contact protocols? It's happening. Right now. Bring the flap truck and the electromagnetic shielding tarps. Call Sophia and tell her to prepare the old mining lab." She paused, listening to his shocked response. "Yes, I'm serious. We have maybe 2 hours before satellite imaging picks this up clearly. If we don't move it now, we'll never get this chance again." As she ended the call, Alina noticed a small object near her foot, a device the size of a smartphone that must have been ejected during the crash. She picked it up carefully. Its surface lit up with the same shifting symbols she had seen inside the craft. Somewhere in the forest, a twig snapped. Alina spun around, scanning the darkness between the trees. Was something, or someone, watching her? The strange feeling of being observed prickled along her spine, but she saw nothing in the shadows. The helicopter's spotlight swept over the nearby ridge. Time was running out. "Whatever you are," she whispered toward the crashed ship, "you're going to help us leap a century ahead." She slipped the small device into her pocket and hurried back to her truck to guide her team in. By dawn, the crash site would be empty, with only flattened trees to show anything had happened at all. What Alina couldn't know was that the craft's emergency beacon had already activated, sending its signal across the vast emptiness of space, calling its owners home to Earth. The abandoned mining complex had been transformed beyond recognition. What once housed rusty equipment and coal dust now contained a state-of-the-art laboratory built around the alien vessel. Alina wiped sweat from her brow as she adjusted the scanning equipment pointed at the ship's exposed power core. "Are you getting this?" she asked, not looking up from her work. Dr. James Chen nodded, his eyes fixed on the holographic display. "The energy signature doesn't match anything in our databases. It's not nuclear, not chemical. I'm not even sure it follows our understanding of thermodynamics. The core pulsed with a soft blue light that seemed to bend slightly around its edges, as if gravity itself responded differently near the alien technology. 6 months of careful study had yielded remarkable discoveries, but generated even more questions. The material composition doesn't make sense either, said Sophia, their material specialist. She manipulated a 3-dimensional model of the hull's molecular structure. It's like it's partially in quantum flux, allowing it to absorb and redistribute impact energy. That's how it survived the crash, mostly intact. Elena stepped back to observe their progress. The ship's outer hull had been carefully disassembled, revealing systems that defied conventional engineering. Where human technology relied on distinct, separate components, the alien systems blended seamlessly into each other, more like a living organism than a machine. "Have you made any progress with the navigation data?" she asked Chen. He gestured toward a separate workstation. "Some. Their mapping system includes stellar configurations going back thousands of years. I think they've been observing Earth for centuries, just never made direct contact." A soft alarm chimed from Elena's tablet. She checked the security cameras positioned throughout the surrounding forest. Standard procedure every hour. Nothing unusual appeared, just the occasional deer or fox passing through the perimeter. "The power requirements for this facility are getting harder to mask," Sophia warned. "The regional grid monitors have flagged our usage 3 times this month. We've explained it away as mining equipment tests, but they'll start asking more questions." Elena nodded grimly. "I know. That's why we need to accelerate our work on the power core. If we can replicate even a fraction of its functionality, we could generate our own power off-grid." Her gaze drifted to a sealed container in the corner of the lab, the strange device she had found at the crash site. Unlike the other technology, this one had remained stubbornly inert since that first night when it had activated briefly in her hands. "Any theories on our little mystery box?" she asked. Chen shrugged. "Could be anything. Personal device, weapon, communication tool. Without understanding their base technology better, it's all guesswork." The facility lights flickered momentarily, and a low hum emanated from the ship's core. "That's the 3rd time today," Sophia noted with concern. "It's like it's trying to power it up, searching for something." Elena approached the core, observing the subtle changes in its energy pattern. "Or signaling to someone," she said quietly. Little did she know, across the vast distances between stars, that signal had reached its destination. In the command center of the Vulcan fleet carrier Dominant Eclipse, Admiral Vexora reviewed the emergency data packet with growing alarm. "The beacon contains fragments of scanned data," reported her intelligence officer. "The ship was beginning its survey of human military capabilities when it malfunctioned. And now those same humans have our technology," the Admiral said, her 4-fingered hand clenching into a fist. "Prepare recovery team Charvex for immediate deployment. Priority clearance. They are authorized to use any means necessary." The recovery team commander, Kresnar, bowed his elongated head. "The humans will not even know we have arrived until it is too late," he assured her. "We will retrieve the Horizon Seeker and eliminate all evidence of contact." As the team prepared their stealth insertion vessel, Admiral Vexora studied the limited intelligence they had on humans. "Such primitive beings," she muttered, "yet dangerous in their ignorance. They cannot be allowed to comprehend what they have found." The Montana wilderness shrouded Commander Kresnar and his team in darkness as they moved silently through the forest. Their adaptive camouflage suits shifted patterns with each environment they passed through. Pine green in the woods, gray near rocks, and almost translucent in moonlight. No human technology could detect them, a fact that had made previous observation missions to Earth routine and uneventful. "Life signs ahead," whispered Mevler, their reconnaissance specialist. 2 humans, approximately 300 meters northeast. Kresnar signaled for the team to freeze. His helmet enhanced his vision, revealing 2 figures in outdoor gear moving through the trees with flashlights. Forest rangers or hikers, most likely. The Vrulcan commander waited patiently as the humans passed by, completely unaware of the 4 aliens standing perfectly still just 20 meters away. "The ship's beacon is active but stationary," reported Tazlon, their technical specialist, once the humans were out of earshot. "The signal originates from within that mountain ridge." Kreznar studied the topographical overlay in his helmet display. "There's nothing marked at that location in our database." "There wouldn't be," said Renvex, security specialist and second in command. "Our last comprehensive survey of this region was 36 cycles ago." Humans build quickly. The recovery team advanced toward the coordinates, moving with practiced efficiency through terrain that would have challenged even elite human special forces. As they crested a ridge, Kreznar signaled another halt. Below them, nestled against the mountainside, stood what appeared to be an old industrial facility, but with significant modifications. "Thermal imaging shows extensive underground development," Mevlir reported, adjusting her scanning equipment. "Power signatures consistent with..." She paused, recalibrating her equipment. "That's impossible." "Report," Kreznar demanded. "Commander, I'm detecting energy patterns matching Vrulcan phase shift technology. They've somehow adapted components from the Horizon Seeker." Disbelief rippled through the team. Phase shift technology was among their civilization's most advanced achievements, allowing matter to partially exist in parallel dimensional states. The idea that humans could even comprehend such technology, let alone implement it, violated every assessment of Earth's technological capabilities. "Could the ship's systems have activated automatically?" asked Tazlon. Kreznar's 4 eyes narrowed as he studied the facility. "No. The phase shift generators require specific calibration that can't happen without intelligent intervention." The implications disturbed him deeply. Their mission briefing had described humans as clever but technologically primitive beings, barely a century into the electronic age. The recovery operation had been planned with the assumption they would be retrieving the Horizon Seeker from confused primates who might have moved it but couldn't possibly understand it. "New plan," he decided. "We infiltrate at low density." The commander referred to a technique where their suits would shift them partially out of phase with normal matter, allowing them to pass through solid objects. Tazlon, focus on locating the ship. Mevlir, gather intelligence on what they've learned. Renvex, with me. We'll secure an extraction route. As night deepened, the team approached the facility's perimeter. Kreznar reached out to touch what appeared to be a standard metal fence and received a painful shock that rippled through his nervous system, instantly disrupting his phase shift field. He stumbled back, his camouflage flickering momentarily. "Containment barrier," he hissed. "They've adapted our own security technology." Renvex scanned the perimeter. "The entire facility is protected. They've created a crude but effective replication of our dimensional stabilization grid." Kreznar stared at the barrier, a cold realization settling over him. The humans hadn't just found their ship, they had understood it on a fundamental level, and with alarming speed. "We've been catastrophically misinformed about human capabilities," he said quietly. "This mission is no longer a simple retrieval. We are dealing with a potentially high-grade threat species." As if confirming his assessment, a subtle alert appeared in his helmet display. They had triggered some kind of perimeter detection system that shouldn't have been capable of detecting them at all. Alina's fingers flew across the holographic interface as warning indicators flashed across her screens. The perimeter sensors had detected unusual energy signatures, signatures that matched patterns they had discovered in the ship's security logs. "They're here," she announced, her voice calm despite the adrenaline surging through her system. 4 of them, approaching from the northwest ridge. Her team moved with practiced efficiency, activating defense protocols they had developed for this exact scenario. Over the past 6 months, Alina had insisted on daily drills, preparing for the inevitable moment when the ship's owners would return to claim it. "Containment field is charged and ready," reported Sophia from her station. "Internal security grid active." Chen looked up from his console. Do you really think our adaptations will work against them? We're basically throwing their own technology back at them. Alina's expression remained focused as she monitored the intruder's progress through the facility's outer layers. That's exactly why it might work. They'll expect primitive human defenses, guns, physical barriers. They won't expect us to have repurposed their own systems. The aliens moved through the facility with concerning speed and precision. 2 security guards attempted to intercept them but were quickly incapacitated. Not killed, Alina noted with interest. The intruders seemed to be using non-lethal methods. They breached Level 3, Sophia reported. Approaching the main laboratory in 40 seconds. Alina nodded. Initiate final containment sequence. Everyone. Positions. The team scattered to predetermined locations throughout the lab. Alina remained at the central console, directly facing the entrance. When the laboratory doors slid open, 4 humanoid figures entered in perfect formation. Their camouflage suits shifted to match the laboratory environment, but the containment field they had just stepped into disrupted the technology, revealing their true forms. They stood nearly 7 feet tall, with elongated limbs and torsos. Their skin had a faint bluish tint, and their faces featured 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern above a small, lipless mouth. The leader carried what appeared to be a weapon, though it resembled no firearm Alina had ever seen. "Welcome to Earth," she said, speaking in the alien's own language, a complex series of clicks and resonant tones she had painstakingly learned from the ship's audio files. The 4 aliens froze, clearly shocked to hear their language from a human throat. The leader recovered first, stepping forward with his weapon still raised. "How have you learned our speech?" he demanded, his voice having an odd, harmonic quality. "The same way we learned about your phase shift technology, dimensional stabilization grids, and quantum navigation systems," Alina replied evenly. "We studied your ship." The alien commander's 4 eyes blinked in an unsynchronized pattern that Alina interpreted as surprise or confusion. "Impossible. Your species lacks the neurological framework to comprehend such concepts." Alina smiled thinly. "Clearly, your intelligence on humans is outdated. I am Dr. Alina Reyes, Xenotechnology Specialist." "And you are?" After a moment's hesitation, the alien responded. "Commander Kresnar, Vrelkin Fleet Recovery Division. You will return our property and all data you have gathered from it." Alina's posture remained relaxed despite the tension filling the room. "Your property crashed on our planet, Commander. Under international salvage laws, that makes it ours. Your primitive legal concepts are irrelevant," Kresnar stated flatly. "The technology in that vessel could destroy your civilization if improperly handled. Its retrieval is non-negotiable." Alina was about to respond when a different alarm blared throughout the facility, this one indicating external threats. She glanced at the security feeds and saw multiple helicopters with military markings surrounding the complex. "It seems we have a more immediate problem," she said, turning back to the aliens. "Your arrival didn't go unnoticed. Government forces have tracked you here." She made a swift decision. "We have approximately 3 minutes before they breach this facility. I suggest we continue this conversation elsewhere, unless you prefer explaining your presence to Earth's military leaders." The standoff had just become infinitely more complicated. The abandoned steel mill groaned in the wind, its rusted structures providing perfect cover for the unlikely alliance now hiding within its cavernous interior. Alina wiped grime from a makeshift workbench as she reassembled a component from the alien ship. Across from her, Commander Kresnar watched with his 4 eyes narrowed in concentration. "Your approach to the power distribution node is unorthodox," he observed, his translator device converting his natural clicks and tones into English. "You've bypassed 3 stabilization protocols." Alina didn't look up from her work. "Your stabilization protocols assumed access to materials we don't have on Earth. I had to improvise." The hasty escape from her facility had forced both groups to grab what technology they could carry. Alina's team had focused on the power core components and navigation systems, while the Vrelkins had secured the quantum communication array and weapon systems. Neither group had enough to make the ship functional again, creating an uneasy interdependence. Improvisation is not a concept we value in engineering, Krasnar stated, his tone suggesting this was an obvious flaw in human thinking. Alina finally looked up, brushing a strand of hair from her face. That's why your civilization has hit technological plateaus 3 times in your history, she replied. When she saw his surprise, she added, Yes, we deciphered enough of your historical databases to see the pattern. You advance rapidly, then stagnate for centuries until some outside force pushes you forward again. Nearby, engineer Sarah Kim worked alongside the Vrelkin technician Mevler, attempting to integrate human power sources with alien technology. The unlikely pair had discovered a shared fascination with efficiency algorithms that transcended their species differences. Try routing the current through this superconducting material, Sarah suggested, offering a component she had salvaged from their lab. It might compensate for the phase variance. Mevler hesitated, 4-fingered hands hovering over the delicate circuitry. This would violate standard construction protocols. Sometimes protocols need violation, Sarah replied with a shrug. Otherwise, how do you discover new possibilities? The Vrelkin reluctantly accepted the component, integrating it into their work. Moments later, the power matrix hummed to life, glowing with a steady blue light instead of the unstable flicker they had struggled with for hours. Impressive, Mevler admitted quietly. On the far side of the warehouse, Sophia monitored their perimeter security while simultaneously studying the small device Alina had found at the crash site. It remained stubbornly inert despite all attempts to activate it. Any progress? Alina called over. Sophia shook her head. It's like it's waiting for something specific. Commander Krasnar's attention snapped toward the device. You have a command interface unit. His tone had shifted from dismissive to alarmed. Where did you find this? At the crash site, Alina answered carefully, noting his reaction. What exactly is it? The commander approached slowly, studying the small rectangular object. It contains the complete technical specifications for the Horizon Seeker, including its most classified systems. He looked up at Alina. It's genetically locked to the ship's commanding officer, which is why you haven't been able to access it. Alina processed this information quickly. So we've been reverse engineering everything when the complete blueprints were right here. A fortunate limitation, Krasnar replied dryly. Had you accessed this, your military would already have weapons capabilities that could threaten our worlds. Alina met his gaze steadily. That's what this is really about, isn't it? Not just retrieving lost technology, but preventing Earth from advancing too quickly. Before the commander could respond, Sarah called out excitedly from her workstation. I've got it. The propulsion matrix is accepting our power source. On her screen, complex equations resolved themselves into a stable pattern. The modified human components weren't just compatible with the alien technology, they had somehow increased its efficiency by nearly 30%. Krasnar stared at the readings in disbelief. That's theoretically impossible. Alina smiled slightly. Welcome to humanity, Commander. We specialize in the impossible. The temporary alliance had just begun to find its rhythm when the first Hazori scout vessel broke atmosphere. Alina watched the thermal imaging feed with growing concern as 3 more followed, their entry vectors suggesting a coordinated search pattern. They're tracking the quantum resonance from our communications, Krasnar explained, his usually stoic features showing genuine worry. The Hazori excel at hunting. Alina studied the alien ship's movement patterns. Tell me about them. What are we facing? The commander's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. A gesture Alina had learned indicated reluctance. The Hazori Dominion represents everything we Vrelkins oppose. Where we seek stability and order, they pursue aggressive expansion. Their society is built on resource extraction and biological assimilation. Biological assimilation? Sophia asked from her monitoring station. They incorporate useful genetic traits from conquered species, Mevler clarified, her voice carrying unmistakable disgust. They view all life as merely raw material to be harvested and improved upon. The implications chilled Elena to the core. Earth wasn't just caught between two advanced civilizations, it was facing potential extinction if the wrong side found them first. Their discussion was interrupted by an urgent alert from their perimeter sensors. Movement at the northeast access point, reported Chen, who had taken over security monitoring. Humanoid figures, but their thermal signatures are wrong. Running too hot. Security feeds showed 4 figures moving with unnatural speed and precision through the abandoned facility's outer buildings. Their forms appeared mostly human but with elongated limbs and oddly jointed appendages. HFY shock troops. Krasnar identified them immediately. Genetically modified for tracking and capture. They must have detected our energy signatures. Elena made a swift assessment. We need 15 more minutes to complete the power core integration. Can your team hold them off? Renvex, the Vrelkin security specialist, checked his weapon, not without revealing our position to their orbital support. Sarah Kim had been silent, studying the structural schematics of the steel mill. Now she spoke up. We don't need to fight them directly. This facility used to process molten metal. The old cooling channels run throughout the entire complex. What are you suggesting? Elena asked. Sarah pointed to her tablet showing the facility layout. We can redirect the HFY through a specific path using controlled energy emissions, then trigger the old emergency cooling system. The temperature drop would incapacitate them, temporarily based on their thermal readings. Commander Krasnar studied the human engineer with newfound respect, using their own biological enhancements against them. Our tactical doctrine would never have considered such an approach. They implemented Sarah's plan with remarkable speed, human adaptability complementing Vrelkin technical precision. Elena and Mevler modified power cells to create false energy signatures that would lure the HFY troops along the desired path, while Sophia and Tazlon prepared the ancient cooling system. From their hidden command center, they watched as the HFY took the bait, following the energy trail deep into the facility's processing center. When all 4 hunters converged in the main chamber, Renvex activated the system. Supercooled fluid, dormant for decades but still functional, flooded through the overhead pipes. The temperature in the chamber plummeted from room temperature to nearly freezing in seconds. The effect on the HFY was immediate and dramatic. Their accelerated metabolisms, designed for short bursts of intense activity, couldn't adapt to the sudden cold. They collapsed, bodies seizing as their modified systems struggled to compensate. It worked, breathed Chen in amazement. Temporarily, cautioned Krasnar. They will recover, and they will have communicated our general location to their command vessels. Elena nodded grimly. Then we need to complete our work and move immediately. The integration has to be finished within 10 minutes. As they returned to their tasks with renewed urgency, Elena noticed Commander Krasnar watching Sarah Kim with an expression she couldn't quite interpret. Your species continues to surprise me, he said quietly to Elena. We prepared for every contingency except human creativity. Dawn broke over the Montana mountains, painting the snow-capped peaks with amber light. Elena stood at the edge of the clearing, watching as both human and Vrelkin team members made final preparations for their desperate gambit. The partially reconstructed ship gleamed in the morning sun, its hybrid systems, part alien, part human, humming with energy. The bait is set, Chen confirmed, closing the access panel on the transmitter they had modified to broadcast a specific energy signature. Once activated, it will simulate a pre-launch sequence. Both the military and the HFY will detect it. Elena nodded, her breath visible in the cold mountain air. And the defensive perimeter. Sophia approached, carrying what appeared to be ordinary backpacks. 6 units ready for deployment. Each contains a modified version of the ship's defensive shield generator. Range is limited to about 50 meters, but they should hold against conventional weapons. Commander Kreznar inspected one of the devices with obvious amazement. "You miniaturized our shield technology in less than 2 days." He shook his elongated head. "This shouldn't be possible without quantum fabrication facilities." "We worked with what we had," Alina replied simply. She turned to address the combined team. "Everyone clear on the plan? Once we activate the transmitter, we have approximately 30 minutes before both threats converge on this location. We'll be positioned in the surrounding forest, using these modified shields for protection." Renvex, the Vrelkan security specialist, examined the topographical hologram projected from his wrist device. "The terrain favors us. When the Hazori and your military forces encounter each other, their mutual confusion should provide us the window needed to disable both groups." Alina had insisted on non-lethal approaches, a condition that the Vrelkans had reluctantly accepted. Their plan relied on using the ship's systems to generate a localized electromagnetic pulse that would disable electronics while the shield generators protected their own equipment. The team separated into their assigned positions. Humans and Vrelkans paired together to combine their strengths. Alina found herself alongside Commander Kreznar in the northern section of the perimeter, nestled behind a natural outcropping of rocks. "This plan is uncharacteristically clever," the commander admitted as they waited. "Pitting two opposing forces against each other while remaining outside the conflict." "Sun Tzu," Alina replied, "an ancient Earth military strategist. The supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting." Kreznar's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a gesture Alina now recognized as thoughtful consideration. "Your species quotes war philosophers, yet you insisted on non-lethal methods. These contradictions are difficult to reconcile." Before Alina could respond, Shen's voice came through their communication devices. "Multiple aircraft approaching from the south. Military helicopters. Looks like special forces." Almost simultaneously, Mevlir reported, "Hazori vessels descending from the north. 3 smaller craft plus 1 command ship." "Right on schedule," Alina murmured. She activated the shield generator, creating an invisible bubble of protection around their position. "Activate the transmitter." The ship in the clearing powered up, its systems pulsing with increasingly bright energy signatures designed to draw attention. The plan proceeded perfectly until the first Hazori troops deployed from their vessels, revealing equipment they hadn't anticipated. "Biomagnetic disruptors," Kreznar identified with alarm. "They can detect our shield technology." Alina watched in growing concern as the Hazori troops turned directly toward their hidden positions, ignoring the ship entirely. Simultaneously, the military helicopters deployed soldiers using tactics that would flank their positions. "They know it's a trap," Alina realized. Both of them. A sudden explosion rocked the eastern perimeter where Sara and Tazlon were positioned. Through the trees, Alina glimpsed a Hazori hunter advancing on their position, wielding some kind of pulsing organic weapon. Without hesitation, Alina broke cover and sprinted toward the danger, ignoring Kreznar's shout of warning. Their carefully constructed plan was collapsing, but she wasn't about to let her people pay the price for its failure. The newly constructed diplomatic chamber hummed with energy as final preparations were made for the arrival of the Vrelkan delegation. Alina adjusted the collar of her formal attire, a unique design that merged traditional Earth formal wear with elements of Vrelkan ceremonial garments, a symbolic gesture that had been her idea. "The delegation ship has entered Earth orbit," Chen reported, checking the advanced monitoring systems they had installed. "Their shuttle will arrive in approximately 12 minutes. Alina nodded, taking a deep breath to steady her nerves. 3 months had passed since the confrontation in the mountains. 3 months of intensive work, negotiation, and unprecedented cooperation between a small group of humans and the Vrelkan recovery team. What had begun as an attempt to retrieve crash technology had evolved into something far more significant. Commander Kreznar entered the chamber, now dressed in the formal regalia of a Vrelkan diplomatic envoy. The intricate patterns on his uniform signified his new role as official liaison to Earth, a position created specifically for him after his unprecedented recommendation to the High Command. The delegation includes Admiral Vexora herself, he informed Alina. Your achievements have captured the attention of our highest authorities. Alina smiled slightly. Our achievements, Commander. Neither side could have done this alone. They both gazed at the centerpiece of the chamber, a holographic display showing the hybrid vessel they had created together. Using the salvaged components of the crashed scout ship combined with innovative human adaptations, they had built something entirely new. The ship incorporated principles from both civilizations, resulting in capabilities that exceeded pure Vrelkan design. They still don't fully understand, Krasnar said quietly. Many in the High Command believe we should simply provide you with limited technology in exchange for resources or strategic positioning. And what do you believe? Elena asked. The commander's 4 eyes focused on her with an intensity that had become familiar over their months of collaboration. I believe my civilization has become stagnant through our rigid adherence to established principles. We advanced rapidly for millennia, but our progress has plateaued. We solve problems using only approved methodologies and expected approaches. He gestured toward the holographic ship. Your species lacks our technological foundation, yet you created innovations our engineers never conceived. You approach problems from perspectives we would never consider. A soft alert tone indicated the delegation's shuttle was making its final approach. Delina straightened her posture, mentally reviewing the carefully crafted presentation she would deliver. Ready? She asked her team, who had gathered around her. Sophia gave a confident nod. The demonstration systems are prepared. When you give the signal, we'll show them exactly what human-Vrelkan cooperation can achieve. The massive doors to the landing bay slid open, revealing the sleek Vrelkan shuttle as it settled onto the platform. A procession of tall, dignified aliens emerged, led by Admiral Vexora, immediately recognizable by her elaborate uniform and commanding presence. Elena stepped forward to deliver the traditional Vrelkan greeting gesture they had practiced, but paused when she noticed something unexpected in the Admiral's hands, the small device she had found at the original crash site, now glowing with activated power. Dr. Elena Reyes, the Admiral addressed her in perfect English. Commander Krasnar speaks most highly of your capabilities. He claims your species possesses a unique cognitive framework that allows for unprecedented innovation. We simply see things differently, Elena replied diplomatically. Different perspectives often reveal solutions invisible to those too close to the problem. Admiral Vexora studied her carefully before responding. For centuries, we have encountered species throughout the galaxy. Some we conquered, some we avoided, some we traded with. Never have we considered any as potential equals. She extended the activated device toward Elena. Until now, this command interface has been recalibrated to recognize your genetic signature alongside Vrelkan authority, the first such accommodation in our history. What exactly does that mean? Elena asked, though she suspected the answer. It means, Commander Krasnar interjected, his tone carrying unmistakable respect, that humanity's journey to the stars begins today. As partners, not subjects.